This is the first time in a while I'm just going to kind of hop on in front of a camera, no script, no notes, and just kind of talk about a trade rumor. And because I think this one definitely has legs, and especially because it's been officially reported that the trade has been offered to Golden State for Stephen Curry. I think it actually does have legs, and it has a high possibility of actually going through. Before we get to the one that's actually officially reported, I think I actually want to talk about a different one that actually kind of was rumored and I think also has legs currently, even with the current offer that the Boston Celtics have put up for Stephen Curry. You look at the construction of the Kawhi Leonard trade, the Jaylen Brown trade, and the Giannis trade, and even the LaMelo Ball trade. There is a specific structure in boxes that essentially need to be checked when you make those big hauls. Essentially, it's a main salary for one, young players, and picks. Sometimes the main salary is the young player, like Giannis at the age of 32 being traded for Tyler Herro as the main salary at the age of 25. But he's also the essential young player in that deal. For the Jaylen Brown trade, there was no young player, but there were picks involved. And that's also the third one, which is picks. So there's a main salary, there's young players, and there's picks that all need to be filled. And I think a team that has a main salary they're trying to get off urgently, even though there's been reports otherwise, I think they should try to get off of this contract. Young players and picks is the San Antonio Spurs. The main salary in this trade going to Golden State from San Antonio is obviously De'Aaron Fox. And quick note on De'Aaron Fox, can we just chill on the slander? It's going from quote unquote playful slander to just personal hate. I just feel like you gotta relax a bit on the stuff they're saying to these guys. Cause who knows the mental state of De'Aaron Fox right now after essentially making that big play. He didn't blow the comeback by himself. The Knicks didn't make the comebacks against De'Aaron Fox. They made the comebacks against the San Antonio Spurs. And that I'm just gonna leave that there. That might be another video and it's on its own. Anyways, the young players that are going to be involved in this trade is Carter Bryant, and the picks are going to be the ones displayed on the screen right now. The second version of this trade, because I do think the Spurs will try to hang on to Carter Bryant just because of the fact that I think he's just going to be someone who the Spurs are just going to have, and as a key vital piece of their future, I think they could easily replace Carter Bryant with Jaden Quaintance just due to the upside that he could have. And the fact that the Spurs also already have Terrace Reed. Maybe the Spurs would give Terrace Reed instead just because Jaden Quaintance has more upside. But Terrace Reed, I think, is more surefire, guaranteed, healthy, has more big man size in terms of height and not in terms of wingspan. Just pure physical stature. And I think the Golden State Warriors can maybe value that over the potential upside of Jaden Quaintance. Where both teams are gaining here, I think for the Spurs, they're just getting off of that longer-term De'Aaron Fox contract, which I think is going to be around $60 million after this upcoming 26-27 season. Stephen Curry is 39. I don't think he's hit 40 yet. I think he's 39 at the time you're recording this. So you're probably not going to have that contract for, I think De'Aaron Fox is on a contract for 4 more years. The screenshot will be on the screen if I'm wrong. But I think just having the opportunity to negotiate a potential pay cut for Steph Curry because you have Wemby, who I think actually took a little bit less than the rookie max extension. You're going to have stuff on Castle extensions. You already have Keldon making $17.5 million. You have Devin Vassell making $24 million. And you have, I think, Tobias Harris making $13 million a year. And then you have Luke Cornett making $11 million. I'm not saying all of that is a lot of money on its own, like the Tobias Harris, Luke Cornett contracts, but it just stacks upon each other and stacks upon each other. And so you're just kind of locked into your current roster. And I think Julian Champagnie got his team option declined and he got an extension. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure he got his team option declined. And I think he's making around $12 to $15 million. For the Celtics, they are getting a ton of younger players. Stephen Curry is 39. I think De'Aaron Fox is 27, 28. They are getting a decade younger by going from Stephen Curry to De'Aaron Fox. Even though De'Aaron Fox is making a ton of money, he's making less money than Stephen Curry. And I think with the contract that Draymond is on, Draymond's probably also getting traded. So you're just opening up a lot of possibilities for yourself. Like maybe Steph gets traded with Draymond and it's De'Aaron Fox and Devin Vassell as another trade that could potentially be made. But for the Warriors, you're obviously, like I said, I think the Warriors will try to ask for Carter Bryant, but this could be like a Giannis thing where it's like, I'm not giving up Hugo Gonzalez. So it's like maybe the Spurs like, I'm not giving up Carter Bryant. But I think Terrace Reed, maybe both Jaden Quains and Terrace Reed are included in the Steph Curry trade just because of how dear Stephen Curry is to the Warriors, even though they aren't making moves for him. Anyways, like I do think the Warriors will try to just be like, nah, we're not operating any further if you don't give us one of your young guys that you have on your roster. I've said this a ton of times with the amount of times I've talked about the Paul George for Jaylen Brown exchange, the Celtics and the Sixers over the last couple of videos I've made. But the Warriors are also kind of doing the Paul George side of the Jaylen Brown trade because you're taking a step back for the possibility of taking a step forward, which is the perfect transition to the Boston Celtics trade. To elaborate on what I just said, I think the reason the Celtics made the trade for Paul George and the picks, I think it's been more understood as time has gone on. You know, time heals all wounds, that saying. But the reason that the Celtics traded for Paul George and those picks was to take a step back for the possibility to take a step forward. And when you just look at the offer that the Celtics were probably getting for Jaylen Brown, they just weren't competent because, like I said, for the construction of the trade, the teams either didn't have a big matching salary to just throw at the Celtics to be like, hey, take this guy. We'll give you one or two young players and we'll give you some picks. Or they didn't have the young guys, or they didn't have the draft capital to trade for Jaylen Brown and then also have the draft capital to build around Jaylen Brown whenever they do eventually get him. So by trading for Paul George, who the Sixers give a max contract to, you already had the matching salary there. Yes, the Sixers didn't give up a LeBron Fine or a Justin Edwards or something like that, but they gave up picks. And you can use that huge matching salary in Paul George to go get Devin Booker. I know the Phoenix Suns have reported consistently that they're not looking to trade Devin Booker and that's the guy they're sticking with long term and short term. But it just opens up the John Morant trade that could have been made for Paul George straight up. I think people were discussing that a little bit before John Morant got traded to the Blazers. It gives you the possibility for like an Evan Mobley trade if you wanted to make that move. It just gives you so many options for guys that are kind of maybe looking for a new team. I actually want to talk about the Golden State's part of the trade first. Like I said, they're kind of getting themselves in that Boston situation where if the opportunity presents itself, where a superstar is just trying to leave or intriguing younger piece that they want to add to the roster available and is on the extension, they can use that Paul George contract again. Yes, Paul George's contract can be used again, and especially because his contract is expiring at the end of next season, not the 26-27 season, but the 27-28 regular season. You could kind of use that huge expiring contract to save someone out of a really bad cap situation. You can just throw them some picks. Or if the situation is that bad, maybe you can even gain some picks to give him an expiring Paul George contract. Who knows what Paul George will be looking like when he's in a different environment away from Philadelphia. And if even without Stephen Curry, the Warriors are like, okay, we're still going to shoot the ball. We're still going to be a heavily perimeter-centric team around Steve Kerr. You're going to have Paul George, I've already said this a lot of time with the amount of times I've talked about Paul George recently on my channel. But Paul George is still an incredible shooter. Can shoot off of the move, off of the catch, on the pull-ups. Pull-ups, I don't think he's actually that efficient. I checked the advanced numbers. The advanced numbers will be on the screen if I can find them. But he is just an incredible shooter. He's going to play defense. His technical finesse on defense is one of the best in the league, personally, in my opinion. He's good at racking up steals, generating turnovers, playing isolation. He's not the quickest defender, so he can get blown by, but I think he's going to be a way better defensive piece than Stephen Curry. And leading even further into that three-point shooting point I was making earlier is you're also getting Sam Hauser in this version of the rumor. And I'm definitely a fan, especially when you already have guys like Will Richard who are going to shoot the ball. Guys like Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis who are going to space the floor as big men. And guys like Yaxel who can actually operate downhill and benefit off of that space. As well as Guy Santos, who was kind of like a breakout player for the Warriors last season, who can actually not create their shot, but can actually use the space and gravity by others. Yes, that will be a little bit worse whenever Steph Curry's gone, but nonetheless, he is so incredible at extending advantages for his team and just getting open looks as easy as they can possibly be. At the end of the day, this is simply just a rumor, especially the Spurs one, because I don't think it's actually been officially actually rumored. That's just kind of an idea that I and some other stuff had for quite a bit, ever since, LeBron kind of fled to Philadelphia, Anthony Davis coming to Golden State kind of fell through. So coming into the offseason, I was not thinking that the Warriors were going to trade Stephen Curry. But at this point, with Jimmy Butler already not probably going to play more than half of the season, same with Moses Moody, you not having that many guys who can actually go out and just give you 20 points on any given night. I mean, at this point, I'm trading Stephen Curry. The only reason that they probably wouldn't is just simply because, I want this guy to play for our franchise for his entire career. And I'm not saying that's not cool. That's a really cool thing. Like, I think Devin Booker might actually do that because the Phoenix Suns are just kind of not being as active as they maybe should be and trying to kickstart a rebuild. Giannis, we kind of thought that it was going to be like that. Dirk played with the same team for his entire career, but there's not that many legends who have stayed with the same team. So for Stephen Curry to be one of them, that would be incredible, right? I think we can all agree. But sometimes you need to let go of a vision in order to win a ring. Let me know if I'm on to something or if I'm on something. Y'all have a good day.
It's back to him, created the space.